Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Farmer, and I am joined by Andy Rossi. Andy Rossi, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. You and I both doing some facial hair today. I appreciate that.
Yep, gotta cover up that low-hanging fat under the chin. That's what they're here for. We have a special guest on this week's Evolution of Movie show. Andy, should we bring him on?
I think we should.
What a natural segue. Ladies and gentlemen, we have joining us today, JON KOVEL, a guy who does short horror films. John, this is the perfect movie for you to be a part of to review. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I absolutely love the Evil Dead movies. I grew up watching these, and my dad showed me the Evil Dead movies 1 and 2, I think, when I was like 10 years old. So this is perfect. And then I saw Army of Darkness when it came out, and I was really jealous because my sister got to see it in the movies, and I did not.
Ooh.
So it really pissed me off. But I eventually saw it on home video, and I love it. It's not my favorite of the Evil Deads. Part 2 is my favorite, but it's still a classic.
There's definitely a divide in the people who like the Evil Dead versus the Army of Darkness. I think people always like both, but there's definitely a team Evil Dead, team Army of Darkness.
Really? I just thought everybody prefers Evil Dead. Yeah.
There shouldn't be. They're both great. I mean, they're totally different movies. Yeah,
that's true.
So this is the Evolution of Movie show. And for anyone who's new to the show, I always like to explain how it works. It's pretty simple. Basically, what we do is we watch a movie and then we talk about it like it's a book club, but we call it the Evolution of Movies, not because we talk about any artistic integrity part of it, but really just because we started with a movie and then we always watch a movie that came out 1 year after the last movie that we watched. So we started in 1980, went to 1981, 1982. Now we're all the way to 1992. This was a time when movie theaters had hits like Bram Stoker's Dracula, Reservoir Dogs, and of course, Encino Man. But we aren't talking about any of those. We're talking about Army of Darkness, a movie IMDb describes as a sardonic hardware store clerk is accidentally transported to 1300 AD, where he must retrieve the Necronomicon and battle an army of the dead so he can return home. This is one of the most quotable movies I think I've ever seen in my life. But John, we always like to play a little game to start, and it is I want to see if Andy can guess the Rotten Tomatoes score, and then you have to guess whether or not you think the actual score is going to be higher or lower than his pick.
Oh, boy.
Andy, can you guess the Rotten Tomatoes score?
This game's so hard. The Evil Dead movies were such classics, and I think they were reviewed very highly. So my guess is the Evil Deads were probably in the 90s, the first two maybe, high 80s. So I'm going to go, I'll go low 80s for this one, maybe 81, because this was 1992. So, maybe today some of the special effects might not have aged that well, but at the time, I'd say, like low 80s, 81, 82.
82. Oh, strong. So just to give you an idea, I think Ghostbusters was 93 and Flash Gordon was in the 60s.
So Can't Buy Me Love was 50. So I'm like, this is way better than Can't Buy Me Love.
So John, do you think 81, you said 81, Andy?
Yeah, final answer.
Final answer, 81. Do you think the real score is higher or lower?
I think it's lower. Yeah, not just because of my opinion. I just think I remember when it came out, the reactions. I would say the 70s. It was in the 70s.
It is in the 70s. Do you want to give an exact pick? Ooh. Maybe you can get this a hole in one.
72, 73.
73 is the answer.
Oh, you win. I don't know what you win, but you win.
That does still put it in the upper middle of the pack as far as reviews go. When this movie came out, I actually didn't see it until it came out for home video at the time. But I remember I was reading a lot of comic books at the time, and this movie was advertised in comic books like crazy. It was always in the ad on the back side of the cover.
Yeah.
And I was always like, what? Because I hadn't seen Evil Dead. I just was like, what is this? This looks like the coolest thing I've ever seen. A guy with a chainsaw on his arm.
The movie poster is amazing.
And this has got to be the greatest story ever told. A guy with a chainsaw for a hand and a girl and skeletons fighting him.
John, when they promoted it, I think they didn't even actually tell people it was like Evil Dead 3. because I think Universal was scared, like, oh, people don't know those movies. We want like a bigger audience. And it was originally called Medieval Dead because when I was a kid, I was reading Fangoria and Gorezone, and I was so excited. Oh, Medieval Dead's coming out. And then I saw like they changed it to Army of Darkness, and I was like, what is that? That's not Evil Dead. Such a generic title.
Medieval Dead is such a great title.
It's perfect, but I understand Universal got it, and the other ones released independently. So like, all right, we got to get a broader audience. We got to change it up. So they put like the cover's like it's awesome. It's like it's like a romance novel from the 80s.
Yeah.
Like there's Fabio romance novels, or just like the vacation movies lampoon that too. They had Chevy Chase on the cover, like a romance novel with all the women around him, and the glistening chest. But it's a great poster. Yeah.
You mean Chevy Chase doesn't always have a glistening chest?
Only in your dreams.
That's true.
I mean, it's still built that way. He just needs to glisten it every now and again.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll get into that later, I think.
Yeah. Andy, this movie, to your guys' point, to pull back the curtain a little bit, I had never heard of Evil Dead when these came out. So I watched this movie, and I was like, I love this movie. And someone's like, oh, yeah, it was it was the sequel to Evil Dead 2. And I was like, Evil Dead 2. And they're like, well, yeah, there's also an Evil Dead 1. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to watch both of them.
Yeah.
They're very different, but I love them both for their own things. But Andy, had you seen Army of Darkness before? And what were your thoughts going into it this time around?
Yeah, I like John, my dad introduced me to the Evil Dead movie, especially Evil Dead 2. I think I've only seen the first Evil Dead maybe once or twice, but Evil Dead 2 I've seen a lot. So Army of Darkness was kind of given to me, like, you must watch this. It's a part of Evil Dead 2. So I'd watched it, not as much as Evil Dead 2, but quite a bit. But it's been a really long time. It was great to go back and check it out.
I think I saw them. I think I saw them on the Movie Channel. I know they were hosted by Joe Bob Briggs at the time. So they were awesome, and it was like the Movie Channel, so it was like unedited. So it wasn't like TNT when Joe Bob Briggs hosted. So it had all the gore. And I think that's my dad taped it off that, and I saw it. And I was like, oh, this is unbelievable because the camera tricks. Just the camera tricks, all the gags in it. It's unbelievable. I mean, like, just to think how much he did that on. The budget was so low. The gore was so awesome. It's over the top, and inspired so many other movies. It's just awesome.
It's just fun. It's just a fun movie. And before we get into it, I always like to take this part of the show to say thank you to everyone who is watching the show. Thank you for everyone who has liked, commented, shared, subscribed, for 5-star reviews. Always appreciated as well. So we had some great reviews. I wanted to read a couple of them to you guys just to prove that we still get them. If you haven't given us one, you should. We got a 5-star review here. It says entertaining, like friends hanging out. Andy and Jack are entertaining and make movie reviews fun to listen to too. We also got great fun podcasts. I look forward to these podcasts. They make my movie watching much more enjoyable. These guys and their guests are hilarious. Highly recommend checking them out. See, if you haven't checked us out already, I don't know how you're hearing this, but you should check us out. Thank you so much for the kind reviews. That's going out to Steph and Seti. Thank you so much for those. And if you haven't given us a review, give us a review.
Andy, isn't your mom's name Steph?
No, that's my wife.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't think my mom has figured out podcast yet, but
All right.
Yeah. My mom acts like it's this weird, like super high tech thing. Like she's like, I don't know how to use Apple Podcast. No, but mom, you just
click it.
It's right. It's like built into your phone. Yeah, I don't have an account. You don't need an account.
She's like, with the wires and the clicks and the boops. Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah.
No, I'm just like, what are you doing?
It's Mom? Too much. Too much.
Just say you don't like me. Okay, Mom? Just say I've disappointed you because I'm not a dentist. So
you kind of look like you'd be a great dentist, by the way. I trust you with my teeth.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Let me reach right in there.
Maybe Mama was right.
So let's talk about this movie. So a man is missing a hand and is walking through the desert, and he says his name is Ash and he's a slave. He explains he used to work at S-Mart, and after an ill-fated trip to a cabin, he found an evil book called the Necronomicon, and upon reading it, he was sucked into a black hole or whatever that was and found himself in 1300 AD, where he was immediately captured by men on horses dressed in armor. John, I always like the guests to start with this. Explain in this very early scene the world we live in and the characters that inhabit it.
Well, we're jumping. I guess we don't go to the flashback yet, but we're jumping to, like, was it 1300?
think so.
King
Yeah.
Arthur's times, and it's like the juxtaposition to the world he was just in modern times, and all of a sudden he's thrown into this crazy scenario. I don't know how to explain it. It's just the opposite of his world. You know,
Yeah.
he's just thrown into this desert landscape, has no idea where the hell he is until, you know, he meets King Arthur. And it's just so cool because it's so vastly different from the other movies. Because the other movies, we're done with the cabin. We've seen the cabin. It's old school. You know, we're done. It's, you know, stale. So now we're thrown into this world. We're like, all right, where the hell are we? And, you know, I didn't know this until recently, but I guess this is like a version of, was it a Yankee in King Arthur's Court, that, you know, that Mark Twain book. So, you know, he's taken that story and then putting Ash in that scenario.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was cool. And for like 30 years, I had no idea. I mean, I'm familiar with a kid in King Arthur's Court, which I'm sure you guys will do at some point down the road. But it's another classic. But yeah, so it's a take on that and just switching the character with Ash, you know, and a little sprinkling of Gulliver's Travels. But yeah, it's just the opposite world.
I did not know the Yankee and King Arthur's Court thing until just this moment. So that was kind of cool to see. It makes sense though. But yeah, Andy, he's from the future or a cabin or whatever. Again, it's funny because, as I said at the top, I found out about this Evil Dead and everything after watching this movie. And so I was like, yeah, you know, the first 3 minutes of the movie, that's basically what Evil Dead is. And I was like, what? I can see more of that part.
So even when you saw those scenes, you were like, is there another movie before this? Did you question it when you first saw it?
I was just
like,
I was like,
oh, this happened.
Okay, I guess. At this point, I was just like, wait, what is going on?
So I want to make fun of you, Jack, but I will admit that I saw Rocky 5 before I saw any of the other Rockies. So
oh my God,
it was all uphill from there.
Once you've seen Rocky 5, there's no point in going back.
Oh my God. What was the boxer's name in that movie? The guy gets sent, Tommy Gunn, who went to jail. Yeah. Tommy Gunn. Yeah.
That's the worst one.
Yeah, the bar was set pretty low. So at that point, like every Rocky was an Oscar winner.
Yeah.
Right. No, the first one was, but yeah.
When I was watching this for the first time, I was trying to figure out what to make of all this and what this is, which is very much the horror comedy thing, and seeing guys like stabbing the car with their swords and all this other stuff. The wise man thinks Ash could be from the Necronomicon, but the guy who I labeled at this point as the douche thinks he's one of King Henry's men. We're already at the very beginning of this movie kind of setting the stage of there's warring factions. Ash is clearly a stranger in a strange land. It's the past. For the what the hell is going on of this movie, it actually kind of sets a scene pretty well.
And I got to mention one thing in the beginning. In the opening credits, I never noticed this before, but when it shows Bruce Campbell's name, it says Bruce Campbell, and then it says versus Army of Darkness. I just thought that was cool because later we do the Ash vs. Evil Dead show, but I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I do enjoy that because it makes I don't know why they didn't say Ash versus the Army of Darkness, but it was Bruce Campbell versus the Army of Darkness. But again, it's just one of those fun things because I think Bruce Campbell as an actor is more that like I don't know, when you watch his movies outside of this, I never call him by the character name. I call him Bruce Campbell. He's one of those guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's Bruce Campbell and everything.
Every character in this beginning, I already like. Even the douche guy is just such a over the top, like, because even when the wise man says maybe he's from the Necronomicon, he's like, more likely he's one of Henry's men. I'm like, yes, this guy's
they're all so great. And I love the beginning with the S-Mart. I would see a whole movie of Bruce Campbell working at S-Mart.
Yeah, shop smart.
Yeah.
I wish there was more of that in the TV show. Unfortunately, there wasn't, but yeah. But did you guys, Jack, I was wondering, when you were watching it and then you eventually saw Evil Dead, 1 and 2, did you realize they retconned the opening? Like every Evil Dead movie totally retcons the other. So like Evil Dead 2 is pretty much a requel of Evil Dead 1 because they couldn't use the footage from Evil Dead 1. They didn't own their own movie. So they had to reshoot it. And then Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, I don't know what this deal was, but they like reshot it and added Bridget Fonda as his girlfriend. So it's like a totally different actress, totally different haircut. it's just crazy. Even the TV show like retcon stuff because they didn't have the rights to Army of Darkness, and so some other elements like they add his sister and stuff, which is mentioned before. It's just so funny how they retcon everything each one, and it's funny. We're along with it, like yeah, whatever. It's Evil Dead. Anything goes, Alternate universes. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's fun.
I thought Bridget Fonda was going to have more of a role once I saw her.
Same
I'm
with
like,
me.
hey, I know her, and then like, nope.
I like
did
how,
she do somebody a favor?
Yeah, he definitely, and we'll get into it, but he definitely moves on from his girlfriend very quickly in this movie. He doesn't take him much longer to get past her. But let's continue on because Ash and Henry's men are marched to the castle of Lord Arthur, where they're met with anger. Lord Arthur explains evil is taking the land and Henry isn't making it any better. So they start throwing people into the pit. Ash tries to explain he's not involved with Henry's men, and it doesn't work. However, so he's thrown into the pit himself, and he does battle with a kung fu witch. And until the wise man throws him his chainsaw like King Arthur pulling the sword from the stone, it's a perfect fit, and he's able to pull himself to safety. Andy, I want you to walk me through this fight scene.
So good. I love how the guy yells, "Hey, strange one," and just tosses the chainsaw. I mean, just Bruce Campbell is just such a gift. Him saying, "Mr. Fancy Pants," I think he calls Arthur. A girl throws the rock at his head. And it's very Three Stooges. Like he gets hit with the head with the rock.
There's a lot of that.
But I think it's funny is like once he's like in the pit, then he's just like about to like go fisticuffs, and the guy just punches him right in the face. And I'm like, oh man, that's an angry. I wasn't expecting a punch. I was expecting more of a leap, like a zombie usually does or something. But this zombie was like throwing bones, and but he was great throwing him against the spikes. It really gets you going for the rest of the movie. It's like you're on board. It's silly and fun.
Yeah, I thought because the first guy that goes in, blood just squirts up. There's a geyser of blood. Yeah. So the first thing you think is, oh, it's going to be a giant monster. It's going to eat him. But like when Ash goes down there, all of a sudden it's like one deadite after another. And it's like, okay, I guess the first guy either exploded or he just had a really hungry deadite. And I was like, oh, okay, that's strange. But then you remember the deadites kind of know Ash. So maybe they have like some hive mind and they love to play with him like in the other movies. So maybe that's why they take their time with Ash, because they love playing with him because he's so much fun.
I like that that's a great point because that's another thing I never thought of why they didn't kill him so quickly. Because I do love how they throw the first guy and everyone does the slow look over the pit and what happens, and then more blood than could ever be in one person.
yeah, which is classic Evil Dead.
Yeah. But this movie has so many quotes in it. I didn't take them all down because it would just be me reciting quotes all day. But I like the part where he says to King Henry, like, "You're the king of Jack and shit, and Jack just left town."
Yeah, that's awesome.
But John, I want to get your take on this or your thoughts on this. I think one of the things that makes it work is because Ash is such a smart ass throughout this whole movie, but everyone else in this movie, every character is dead serious about everything they do, no matter how stupid their haircuts look or their outfits look or what they're doing. Everyone in this movie takes it incredibly seriously. And I think that's just a spin on it that makes Ash being silly so much more funny.
Oh, absolutely. And the funny thing is that Ash is a moron. That's the whole thing. And then in this world, because of his knowledge of the future, he's not. And even though you see the other characters questioning him, like some of them know, like this guy's kind of a dumbass. But like that's the funny thing is like in this world, he's not. This world, he has the advantage of knowing about the future, and he's got with the books in his car on his biology or chemistry. He's able to do all this stuff that they're like, whoa, he is to them. Like, and I think King whatever was that? Yeah, Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. To them, he's like magic. And that's what's so cool. It gives him the advantage. And on top of that, yes, he's a wise ass. And the juxtaposition between their seriousness and his lines is hilarious. And especially they have no idea what he's saying. They have no context for his vulgarity. And it's just so funny.
And his delivery every time he says it is like, wow, I really got him with this.
There's no reaction whatsoever because they're like,
what are you talking about? One of my favorite scenes of the movie is actually right after the pit scene. After escaping the pit, Ash has had enough. Now he's feeling himself, and he lets everyone know it. He challenges everyone around him. He frees Henry's men, and Lord Arthur kicks down his sword boy before Ash reveals his boomstick. He lays waste to one of the pit demons, and now it's time to talk about getting back home. Ash is now a hero, and he's enjoying things as he blows off the woman that once hated him. The wise man says Ash needs the Necronomicon, and he doesn't want to be bothered with it, but a sweet old lady says Ash shall die. So Ash says, let's go. And after some gunplay, beats the old woman, which doesn't sound as badass as it was if you watched it. But now Ash understands how important it is to get the Necronomicon and agrees to go, but not before engineering a new robotic hand. While working on his hand, the woman from earlier tries to be nice to Ash, but Ash is still bitter because she's, quote, a primate that doesn't understand molecular structure. So she slaps him good, and it turns him on. And Andy, walk us through this sex scene that wasn't really a sex scene, but I got a gimmick to uphold.
I mean, it should have been. I mean, who doesn't want to get with Bruce Campbell? Glistening chest, his new hand.
John, I want to go back to the beginning of this. But the very, very favorite part of this movie is him right after getting out of the pit, where he's like, you want some? Huh? Do ya? He's like picking on the bald guy. And
like, they're all like, no. Yeah, they're all backing up. Yeah. That one guy they pick on who's like an odd character actor who just has such a unique look. I love that they point to that guy who's like the weakest of the group. You know, like, and he's like, oh, why me? Yeah, it's just so funny. Yeah.
And then his friend is like, why didn't you do anything? And he like shoves him off, like, shut up.
Yeah. And he does the shoes untied line. He's like, hey, shoes untied.
Yeah.
Why would he know what that is?
Yeah.
I was thinking that.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I don't have much knowledge about shoes from 1300, but I'm like, they're the same. I don't know if they call them laces. I mean, they could have. I don't know. But one thing that I thought was funny with this is like Sheila, her name's Sheila. She hated him, before because she thought he was part of Henry the Red's group and killed her family. And then the minute he he does his sorcery, pops up, has his boomstick, kills the Deadites. All of a sudden she's gaga for him. And it's funny when I was watching it, because I haven't seen it in a while. I had my 2022 thinking cap on, so I was like, she's gonna trick him. She's tricking him. Obviously, because there's no way she would just fall for him right away. She's going to manipulate him. She's going to hard candy him or something. And then, no, she doesn't. She's just a classic, damsel in distress type. And I was like, oh, that's right. Yeah, this is a throwback to that. But it's funny because you don't have those characters today. Even if they did a version of this today, they wouldn't make her as, they would make her more independent and strong. Like when she gets kidnapped, she would have saved herself. Ash or nobody else would have saved her. So it's very different, but it's hilarious how much of the classic damsel in distress she is.
Yeah, I even had to stop for a minute and be like, wait, is that the same woman that threw the rock at him? Because I'm like, there's no way.
Oh, yeah. But now she's like, wow. Totally in love with him.
And he is so mean to her. He's like, first you want to kill me. Now you want to kiss me. And he spits out his food. Whoa.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was trying to think for a second, what does that mean? I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a throwback. I think his arrogance is a throwback to a lot of those these adventure movies from back in the day, because a lot of the male leads were just totally arrogant and the women were swooning after them. I think, but it's even funnier because Ash is he's like an idiot. And he's so cocky. And that's what's so funny about it. And you can tell, in her eyes, at least through her performance, she knows that, but she's still like, I still love him,
right?
He's a magic man or whatever,
Right, because he got his boomstick retail at S Mart in the hunting goods section.
Yeah. They just all accept it. Yeah.
I'm so glad, Jack, you mentioned the sword boy, though. Sword boy, and the sword boy comes in and just kicks him in the shoulder to bring the sword out.
Yeah.
That is literally my favorite part of this movie. How he holds the sword and he kicks it. He doesn't pull the sword out. He kicks the sword boy away from him.
Yeah, at first I was like, is that intentional? Because I know you have to pull the thing from, and I've seen that in other movies, but I was just like, maybe he fell over. I'm like, nah, Raimi must have did that on purpose. Or maybe it was an accident and they're like, keep it in or just keep doing it. It was really fun. Did you guys notice how King Arthur, when he's in his full medieval armor, he cannot move? There's like
Oh,
one
really?
scene you could see he steps 2 steps and he's like, oh, that's too far. Like he clearly like was fitted that day in that costume like an hour before they shot or whatever. And like this, the AD's like, gotta get to set. And then like they get there and he's like, I can't move. So anytime you see him with the medieval armor, the full garb, he does not move.
That's
or he
so
like moves a
funny.
foot. Yeah.
That is awesome. I always wonder what the because it's an older movie. I always look at their haircuts and things. Like, did they know they all looked like idiots when they were doing this? Like, and how do you give the serious? I don't know if I could play the King Arthur character with like the bowl cut hair across the face and like knowing I look like an idiot.
That was the 1300s, man. That was a hot look.
Yeah, I looked that up. I'm like, was that like a common haircut back then? Like, because it looked ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was a wig. I would hope for the actor's sake. But
Right.
I looked it up, and all the pictures I could get were of who's the guy, Charlie, the guy from Sons of Anarchy, because he played King Arthur.
Charlie.
And I guess his
Oh,
haircut
yeah.
now is called like the King Arthur cut. So everything on Google image search was just Charlie, Hunnam, whatever. That was everything, and I couldn't I just want to see what King Arthur's hair may have looked like.
Yeah.
I like how you looked it up, though.
But I spent an hour looking at his pictures. But I still never got to the facts.
Yeah,
To-
that's
to your
distracting.
To your point about Ash feeling like he's someone who is smarter than he is, where they really showed their hand with that though was where he was like, "You wouldn't understand compounds and science and molecular," and you could tell he didn't know what to say because even he didn't understand what he was saying.
He's so great though when they're fanning him and he's eating the grapes. I feel like usually those scenes you eat the grape maybe one by one. He like bites it like a Big Mac. The grapes in front.
That's
of
how he would do it. Yeah, he's not a civilized man, so that's how he would eat them. Did you guys also notice like he has nowhere to put? I think like when his leg's sticking out, it looked like on set he had nowhere to put his legs, so he just puts it straight out. Like there's like a phantom chair underneath him. Yeah. I'll make this work. Yeah.
There was one last thing I would talk about is when he fights the witch here, the one that is like inside and says, "You shall die."
She bitch. Yo, she bitch.
Oh yeah.
This is another favorite part of mine is where he shoots her from behind. He goes, after he does
like
it,
he senses it. Yeah. Like he's like, I'm so good at this. I know I took her out. He just senses it with all his body. It's classic Ash.
And I think in that part too, he said, "It's a trap. Get an axe." I just love it. Like he's just so primitive
he's so
screw heads.
Right. It's not even bothered by them anymore. He just wants to get home. It's like, yeah, of course, there's a witch here, whatever, or a deadite, whatever you'd call her. I feel like she's different than just a regular deadite for some reason. But
his line though, I have to mention that when he kisses is she a princess or she's just?
I think she's just a.
I don't think they establish it.
Okay.
Because her husband died or someone died, and that's why she hated him at first.
But he says, "Give me some sugar, baby."
Yeah, and that
Who didn't say "Give me some sugar, baby" at least one time after seeing this movie?
Oh, I said it last night.
Yeah, I said it to my wife as well, and I slept in the other room.
Yeah, it doesn't work as well when you don't have a chainsaw as a hand.
Yeah. So the heroes ride out, and Ash is given a series of 3 magical words to use when he finds the Necronomicon. He's hunted by what I think eventually becomes the smoke monster in Lost, but he hides from it in a windmill. And while there, he notices his reflection in the mirror is watching him. He shatters the mirror, and which now creates many small evil versions of him. They knock him out and tie him down like Gulliver, and one of the Ash Lilliputians jumps into Ash's mouth. The mini Ash now starts growing into a full-grown Ash by splitting him in 2. We now have evil Ash and the guy with the gun Ash. And Ash Classic chops up evil Ash with his chainsaw and throws him in a grave, burying him alive. John, you had referenced this earlier with the Gulliver's Travels thing. It's so funny you said that because I never made that connection until last night when I was watching it, and I literally put in my notes the Lilliputian.
Yeah, they tie him up. Yeah.
This is another very iconic scene, and this is probably, I think, the most similar scene to Evil Dead is when he's in that windmill.
Yes, just with the Dutch angles, the lighting, and just the total mayhem one after another. Absolutely, it's the closest probably to Evil Dead 2. And what I love about this scene, one of my favorite parts of the movie is when the eye appears on his shoulder, when you get the idea like, okay, there's going to be another Ash growing on him after he swallows the mini Ash. He says something along the lines, what does he say? He says like something like, oh no, it's growing, it's getting bigger. And he just runs out. Instead of showing it grow bigger, because they probably didn't have it in the budget, all of a sudden it cuts and all of a sudden the head's there.
Yeah.
But it reminded me of that scene in Wet Hot American Summer, like when Kevin Marino goes to save the kids and the on the raft in the river, and he runs off screen, and Joe Latrilio is like, he's doing it. He's actually doing it. He's saving the kids. Oh my God. And it's just like that, because it's like they don't show it. It's all off screen. And that's what I love about this. It's just like, you can skip a few beats. There's just so much going on. They just amp up the Three Stooges mayhem, through the scene. Just between him bonking him, doing the whatever, all the finger stuff with Evil Ash, and then the sound effects. And then when we get to, obviously eventually the graves, the skeletons coming out of the ground, they're poking them. It's just so much Three Stooges in there. And I got to wonder, I know Raimi must have been a huge fan. And I'm guessing Bruce Campbell, because they're probably that age, where they all grew up with the Stooges. And it's such a big influence on these movies.
Yeah, this was the scene, Andy, was when he was in the windmill and the battling Evil Ash and this stuff is where I really stopped and had to think to myself, you got to give Bruce Campbell credit, because he's doing this by himself. And how weird would it be? Like, all this stuff, it's weird to imagine, like, okay, I'm trying to imagine like me trying to put my head down on a fake hot stove and like scooping my own head off and like doing all, or like even when he's like ramming speed, like he's by himself doing this. And it's usually I just watch movies like, oh, this is fun, entertaining. But when I'm watching like this, I'm going, that would be really hard to make that, to do that.
It's amazing. Hey, Bruce, pretend a little Bruce is jumping down your throat. And then, and then, all that stuff. The stuff with the hot stove is so good. I just felt like he did such a great job with that. Like, you literally think his face is like burning off. But when he pours the hot like water in his mouth, like I'm just like, oh no, it's hot, it's so hot. He does such a great job with that.
I definitely get that feeling of like the hot. I feel it when he does it. Like, you know what I mean? You get that almost like sensation of a burning, like drinking something that's too hot when he does it. It's so well done, as silly as it is.
And his goody little two shoes dance is amazing. He's so good. This is definitely my favorite part of the movie. Like, this is so fun. He just really is like, I feel like Bruce Campbell's like one of those spinning toys, and it's just like, let's just spin him to the max and let him go. And he just goes all out in that scene. It's so funny. Very Three Stooges-y too. I definitely agree with that.
There's two things here. The good, bad, I'm the guy with the gun is probably one of my most, like, that's like the most badass part. I love it. But, I just said the sword boy was my favorite part, but my other favorite part,
there's
maybe when he's in the grave and he goes, hey, you got something on your face. What? I lose it every time I see that.
That's so great. It's funny too, watching it this time around too. Like, I knew he was going to come back, but it is funny how there's some like line there where like, I'm gonna get you back for this or something like that, and you don't really think about it maybe the first time you watch it, but this time around it was great because I'm like, I think he's coming back.
The foreshadowing, yeah.
Yeah, I got to give this movie a lot of credit in that it feels like it's a bunch of just random little things coming together, but they do actually tie it all together. Yeah. Like when you're watching it, you're not thinking to yourself, oh, this is the origin of the big bad guy at the end of the movie. You're just like, oh, this is one of these weird things he's going through. But they pull it together. It works out.
Yeah.
So Ash finally gets to the Necronomicon and recites the words, basically. But evil still spreads throughout the land and the dead start to rise, but Ash doesn't have time for any of that. He wants to be sent back, like in the deal. Everyone wants to congratulate Ash until he's told that because Ash said the words wrong, the evil will hunger for the Necronomicon and come for it. Ash doesn't care. He wants to go back to his time, and now everyone is super bummed. A demon steals Sheila, and after Ash is unable to save her, evil Ash starts raising an army of darkness and makes Sheila his bride. This makes classic Ash finally say he's done running and he wants to stay and fight it out. John, this is that kind of part in the movie where we are now kind of seeing the good sides and the bad side. The bad side's getting to that stronger point. The good side seems weakened, and it's almost that like all hope is lost moment, but we're still going to fight on.
Yeah, this scene is like the classic, structurally, the scene where everything is lost, and Ash is going to have to get heroic and get everybody ready to fight the army of the evil dead, or the army of the darkness, or whatever they call in this film. And I wanted to go back. Actually, what I loved in the scene is when he does return, he does say "fuck off" to one of the guys.
Yes.
He's like, fuck off, because he knows on some level he's screwed because he said it wrong,
Right.
And what is he also says the lines wrong, and I think he says the lines from The Day the Earth Stood Still instead, and he says that, and it's just a funny callback. But yeah, so this is the all hope is lost moment, and because he's such a dumbass, and you're hoping that he's gonna get his act together, and he does. So this is his heroic moment, where he actually rises to the occasion, because when he gets on the castle and he tells everybody like, no, we're going to fight them, and what does one of the characters say? There's like only 60 of them left because all of them, ran. And, I also love that Sheila, being the classic, idiot damsel, the winged demon comes. She doesn't move. She just sits there. Like, and just stare, doesn't even, like, everyone else is like taking off, and but she doesn't even look to like find somewhere to hide. She just keeps screaming and screaming, drawing more attention to herself, and she gets snatched. It's just so ridiculous.
To your point too with that demon, I wanted to mention as well, Andy, if you want to take it from here, is you talked about the special effects and how they may or may not have aged in this movie, but I'm not saying that this is the most mind-blowing special effect ever, but because it's not CGI, because like you can tell it's an actual thing, something about it makes it feel like it aged well, and something about it almost makes it feel more terrifying.
Yeah, I felt like that when he goes to the books, when he sees the Necronomicon books, the one that like sucks his face. I remember as a kid like being kind of scared of his face. Like it's like this really long, weird.
It looks like Al Pacino. That's what I thought. I was like, it looks like Al Pacino. Like,
is that the Godfather?
Yeah.
But yeah, that special effects is great. I felt like that held up pretty well. Like his like getting sucked into the book and stuff was pretty great. Yeah.
And I love that he has to just shake his face to get it unstretched.
It's so cartoony.
You have to adjust the chin at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. I wonder how much this stuff was like planned out and how much of it was just ad-libbed kind of on, and like how he did that. And because it is so, and John, I'm so glad you're on the show. And one of the reasons I'm glad you're talking about this is I'm starting to see all these connections to things like the Three Stooges and to things like cartoons, it almost seems like. And you can really start to feel the references of where they probably pulled some of this stuff from, because like as you mentioned, the Three Stooges, I think we need to take some time to talk about the bones poking him in the eyes, and like how he blocks the fingers, and then like he does it again and they come from the sides.
It's so well choreographed. It's like, I don't know how they did that. Like, I mean, some of it they said was a mix of stop motion and then puppets, you could see because the way it moves. Yeah. But it was just so well done. Yeah, I can't. That probably took so long to film.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is where we kind of get everyone together. We see how evil the evil Ash is going to be. And the heroes and the villains, they start preparing for the big impending battle. And the heroes shoot exploding arrows and catapults, but the Deadites are too many. They get into the castle, and the men use their Cupid shuffle style combat skills. And Ash uses his 21st century killing machine car to run over the competition with nothing in his way to stop him, until Sheila shows up. The Deadite mower crashes, and now things look lost until Henry the Red shows up and saves the day, until evil Ash starts making his way into the Necronomicon, and Ash Classic fights a real ugly Sheila and then goes to battle the evil Ash one more time. The buckles are swashed and the swords clank, and eventually Ash Classic lights evil Ash on fire, and evil Ash in his final form grabs the Necronomicon and finds himself on the catapult, launched into space, exploding over the people and causing the retreat of the Deadites and the humans to win the day. The two warring human factions embrace, and Sheila is back to normal. Ash is given a potion and told to recite the magic words to go back to his time, like in the deal. He's back at S-Mart, regaling the tale to his co-workers when a witch arrives, and he's back to destroying evil. He may not have stayed in the past, but the people of today will still learn to hail the king, baby. That's the wrap up of the movie, but we got to go back to the beginning here. Andy, I want you to tell me about their preparation. What am I? Again, I can say this a million times about how they're training to fight, like you see in so many movies, and they're doing the ha, yeah, ha. And then they do the exact thing.
It works. Yeah.
I just like how they're getting trained by Ash, who we already said is like the lovable doofus who has no fighting. You know, he's not like an MMA fighter or anything. He's just like, this is what worked for him in the cabin, so it's gonna work for them in the 1300s.
And fair, it didn't actually work for him in the cabin.
Well, work for him. He's still alive.
I don't know if he actually was doing any yeah.
I don't know where that. I think he picked that up from some movie or something. He's like, I've seen this in movies. This is how it works. Yeah.
I love how they gave the Deadites, like the skeletons, like a personality too. Their reactions. They're like one like screams at one point just literally made me laugh out loud. So because usually these movies, the skeleton people, and like I think it's like stop motion kind of stuff, usually it's like they don't have personalities. It's just like, oh, there's a zombie, there's a skeleton. But these guys, they were super fun to watch. Like there's a part of me that kind of wanted them to win. I'm like, I don't know, they seem pretty fun.
Yeah, they all had like unique looks to them, like and I loved like their ADR, which it's kind of sounded like Bruce Campbell and like Raimi might have done it themselves. And most of it is like funny grunts and screams, but like if you listen closely, at one point I had to like rewind it. One of the skeletons says, "I'm gonna rip his balls off," and like in a Beavis and Butthead way. And I was like, what? And it made me laugh so hard because most of the time it's just them grunting, but then just that one saying that, which is so funny.
And they're all so different too. It's not like it feels like they all came from different backgrounds, because there's even that one near the end. It's like, let's get out of here.
Yeah, it's definitely not tough.
So clever. Yeah.
Did you guys notice that the skeleton army, like when they get to the cemetery and they reveal that Sheila's been kidnapped there, or that's where he took her, is there's women there. There's like chained up women, and in the script, I looked up IMDb. They're called like the graveyard wenches.
Oh, really?
Did I miss something? Where did they come from? I felt like
the name of my band, the Graveyard Wenches.
It's perfect. But it's like, did I miss something? I guess they just kidnapped these women, because later on you see them like in the wide shots, like I think they're Deadites now. Mm-hmm. But it was like 2 or 3 women just chained up.
I think it was just to imply that they were kidnapping women all over. I noticed that too, and they're like, we got plans for you, girly. And I was like, what? What a skeleton plan? I don't know what your goals are here, but I guess make more witches. I don't know, but again, another favorite scene of mine is when she was like, "You loved me once," and he's like, "You got real ugly."
It's just the way he just delivers so perfectly. His one-liners are better than Bruce Willis, in my opinion.
It feels like he makes them up as he goes. I mean, I'm sure they're written, but like he says them so naturally. I 100% believe this is just Bruce Campbell. And I think that's why Bruce Campbell versus the Army of Darkness is great, because I believe this is just Bruce Campbell.
His personality is so big.
Yeah, what does he say to I called him, is his name Captain Deadite, I guess, Bruce's evil twin? Or does he ever have a name?
No, I think we just refer to him in the, I don't think they ever refer to him as anything, but I think in the script or whatever it's called, like Evil Bruce or something. I mean, Evil Ash. There I go. The captain. There is a captain in the scenes, and it's played by Bill Moseley, who's from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Too, and House of a Thousand Corpses. And I heard he got fired on the movie. I forgot why,
really?
But like, he did something silly or something, got fired. But he's in there for a few scenes. I felt like his part was going to be bigger. They're going to do more gags with him.
Yeah. But I like how he says, he's like, "Come to Papa." Like I just love it. His stuff's so great.
It's funny. Yeah, you're right. I don't think anyone ever actually refers to him as Evil Ash. For some reason, it just feels natural to call him Evil Ash. Like that just feels like what I would call him. But I think this is one of those classic things where something I always kind of laugh at, as this evil happens, and then all the humans are like, "We're friends now. We'll make one kingdom." It's like, okay, but who's leading this kingdom? I know that this isn't that kind of movie, but I was thinking like, it's not that easy.
Thinking too hard. Yeah,
you're not going to be friends. You're just going to go back to fighting each other, because is King Henry the leader? Is King Arthur you didn't think this through, fellas? Maybe now is the time to invade the other humans, take over, right? No, I don't know.
Well, without Ash, they got nothing. He was their leader. But I think it's so funny. What made me laugh so hard yesterday when they're like, "All right, Now to get back to the present, you have to remember the 3 words. And he's like, got it. And I'm just like, why don't this guy just write it down? It's 3
He doesn't
words.
learn from his mistakes. Yeah.
It's so funny.
I got to pull back the curtain a little bit, Andy, because obviously we DJ and you've emceed many weddings, and you sometimes have to say names that are difficult. And when I watched Ash try to recite the words, I was thinking to myself, that's exactly how you do it when you're not 100% sure how to say it.
A little cough at the end.
You kind of just force your way through it.
Do you guys actually do that? Like, oh, this is the wedding of Cynthia.
Oh, absolutely. If it's like the wedding party or something, and they have like a interesting last name, let's hear it for John. Yeah, John. That was a terrible.
Have you been corrected by anyone? Has anyone said tickled you aside like you're saying her name wrong? Or
I have, yeah.
Have you?
And I go,
not to make this a wedding podcast, but when I do the grand entrance, if I'm not 100% sure, the trick is because you have music playing. The trick I use is you just don't turn the music part down, so no one can hear what you're saying.
So it just sounds muffled.
Yeah. Sounds like a lot of noise. Everyone's like, oh, I guess he said my name.
Yeah.
Later, if they say you forgot to announce something, like, oh no, I did it before. Like what? Oh, the music was playing.
Music was so loud.
Yeah. You didn't hear it. My bad. Like, can you say it again? No.
Or you just mouth it and then you don't say anything. Oh, the mic cut out for like a quick second.
Yeah.
But it's good now. It's back.
Speaking of back, we do have, of course, Ash is back I love that he's just back in his retail store at S-Mart telling his coworkers, and no one cares. And
well, the one girl does. There's a one girl there.
Yeah. The girl cares because, again, he's moving on to the next one.
Exactly.
That's one of the Raimis, though, isn't it, John? That he's talking to this story in the S-Mart. I don't think it's Sam Raimi.
Oh yeah. His brother. Yeah, his brother's there, and then
he's so not interested. I'm like, I'd be so interested if I worked at S-Mart and this guy was telling me about this killing dead and dead.
Ted Raimi also plays one of like the medieval soldiers too. He's in there.
Does he?
Might have played some
right? Yeah.
He plays the Deadite sometimes.
I feel like there's probably a lot of those guys that did multiple roles in this.
Oh,
movie.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But yeah, no one. The guy doesn't care. He's like a nobody again until, of course, the witch shows up, and just such a cool fight scene. How he's like flipping the shotgun and sliding on the cart, and just such a cool. I really wish they made a sequel to this movie, or like continued it on. I know they made the TV show, but
there's comic books as well. Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off. I just got excited when he has the shotgun. We just reviewed Terminator 2, and like we were saying, who does a shotgun cooler than Arnold Schwarzenegger? Well, I found a guy that maybe does.
I mean, with
Bruce
the
Campbell
single pump, one arm. Yeah.
Bruce Campbell does just about everything cooler though than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, why wasn't he a bigger star? I meant like we were talking about this earlier, but like he is super handsome. Like watching this, like he's just glistening. And I don't know if they have like handsome juice they spray on him. Yeah, they might. Maybe
give me some of that handsome juice.
Give me some handsome juice. But it's like he's like Cherubim. He's like this angel, like in all these scenes. And I was just like, why wasn't he a bigger star? I mean, you know, maybe. He's more of a character actor, but like to me, he's very similar. Like he's just a really handsome, but he's charismatic, like Bruce Willis, at least back in the day was, and it just blows my mind that he wasn't that big,
Yeah, I've never understood it because to your point, he looks great. I feel like the movie had to exceed expectations pretty well. I don't know what the box office numbers are, but I know it wasn't a huge budget and it's still popular. So I don't know why people wouldn't go to look for him and say, even if you weren't a fan of his, even if it is a character thing, you'd go, well, let's make a bigger movie with this character because clearly it works. So I don't know why. I mean, I know he's worked and he stayed busy, but like why he didn't hit that next level, I don't know.
Well, I know they were going to do at one point. I mean, they talked about it like before the Evil Dead show was on. They talked about doing the Army of Darkness 2. But then that kind of disappeared. And then it became the TV show as things do. They evolve. But I think it's really just rights because Universal owns the rights to Army of Darkness. And I think Evil Dead 1 and 2 are independently owned. I don't know who owns them now, Lionsgate. So it's very difficult, to probably pull that off, to take those elements from one movie, even though it's like the third of the series, like if you can't use it because somebody else owns it, it's pretty tricky. But yeah, I wish they would have done something with this. But where would they have them go to a different time period? I guess you could, pop around.
You could make it just in current because now they're in the city, instead of being in the, if you had the bigger budget, you could do, what if they're invading, like, I don't know, whatever city. What city does he live in? Did they say? Oh,
Is it supposed to be Illinois? I think the plate's Illinois. Yeah.
I feel like Illinois or something like that.
Yeah.
But in any case, maybe they're just in the city. I don't know. But
well, don't worry. You got Evil Dead Rises coming out, and that's in a city. It's in a skyscraper.
Oh, really? I didn't know about Evil Dead.
That's a real thing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
It's already made.
What?
Yeah, Bruce Campbell's not in it. It's different. It's different characters. That's what they're going to do with the series.
Well, didn't they do an Evil Dead movie like 5-6 years ago? But it was with a female.
They did, yeah. It wasn't really a remake. It was kind of, I took it as in like, it was just a different group to go to the same cabin, and like the events repeat themselves. I guess it's kind of a remake, but to me, it's in the same world because you see Ash's car in it. It's just like a new group of people, and the Deadites kind of do the same old tricks. It was a lot more serious though. But it was pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good too.
I just feel like him at S-Mart, I would have watched that. Like, is it Night of the Living Dead where they're like at the mall and they have to like fend off
Dawn of the Dead?
Dawn of the Dead. Yeah, they have to fend off the zombies. I would have went for Ash in S-Mart just fighting off Deadites.
Oh yeah. Well, his like one thing I wanted to mention was like the sword play in this movie is really good. Like you wouldn't expect, usually like they cut around actors and then show their stunt doubles and wider shots, but you can clearly see Bruce Campbell doing his own stunts and he's really good. He's like landing and deflecting the hits. And I read somewhere like Bruce hated doing this. I guess he had to figure out, like he had to choreograph these movements like in a number sequence or something. And I heard that like Raimi, like every time like Campbell complained, he told like the stunt team to make it harder and harder for him and make it more elaborate. And it drove him nuts. Yeah.
But you're right. It actually came out. I was actually thinking that they were pretty good though. These fights.
Yeah, you could clearly see it's him, not a stunt double. Yeah.
And he was doing some, like he was doing a lot of like behind, like two-handed sword fighting things. And it was actually
old Errol Flynn moves.
Did you guys see the alternate ending to this?
Yes.
Where he so Andy, for people who maybe didn't see the alternate ending is, from what I understand, I didn't see it last night, so I can't remember exactly, but it basically it sounds like he slept too long and he wakes up after the end of Mankind.
So he's in like an apocalyptic.
Am I remembering that?
Yeah,
he's
supposed to go in a cave, which they don't really explain in the final ending. Did they even mention the cave or anything like that? But he's supposed to take like 5 drops, I think, and I could be wrong with the numbers, but then he takes 6 by accident, and then he ends up in the post-apocalyptic future.
Right.
And Universal said it was too dark. You know, the movie's pretty fun. Why are we going to end on this dark note? So they had to go in and reshoot like the ending. So yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I do like the fun ending better. It is. Yeah. It should end on an upbeat, moment. But I think they did a little bit of the post-apocalyptic stuff in the TV show.
Yeah, because I was gonna say you could make a movie in the post-apocalypse too, if like people who survived fighting Deadites everywhere or whatever.
Yeah,
but they didn't make the sequel, so what's the point? I like the good end. Let's just keep the good ending. But I think this is just a fun movie to go back and watch again. It's so quotable, possibly the most quotable movie I've ever seen. I love it. Andy, John, you get the last word, but Andy, any final words on Army of Darkness?
It's so great. I just like going back and watching. Like I said, I watch Evil Dead 2 a lot, so seeing Army of Darkness was great. I mean, it was super fun and a lot more funny than I knew it was a funny movie, but it's like laugh out loud jokes. So
yeah,
great stuff.
Yeah, definitely. You could see where Sam Raimi, like, this feels like his fingerprint that he uses many times in the style and vibe going forward in his career. But John, any final words about Army of Darkness from you?
I would say it's the Wizard of Oz with a chainsaw. It's the best way I can describe this movie.
I like that.
Yeah. Classic Golden Fleece story, and it's just it's a perfect dash of the Evil Dead madcappiness and adventure movies. Yeah, the Wizard of Oz with a chainsaw.
That's great.
I love it, and it was also kind of a short movie, which makes me leave wanting more instead of feeling like, okay, let's drag on for a long time. But before we go, we have to play a game, John. I don't know if you've caught this, but at the end of the show, I always like to see if Andy can play the old 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game. And this one might be tricky, I'm thinking, because I don't know how many of these people did a lot of movies. But Andy, can you connect Army of Darkness to Kevin Bacon in 6 moves?
Yeah. So Bruce Campbell was in a Coen Brothers movie called The Hudsucker Proxy, which has Tim Robbins in it, who's in Mystic River with Kevin Bacon, which we are reviewing later this year.
Wow, that's good. That's gonna be a fun one.
Wow, that's
hilarious, Mystic River.
That'll be a hilarious review. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
But it's a good. But we got to put in some you know, well done acting movies and things as well. But
that might be our
Andy,
only one.
Andy, can you do Bridget Fonda to Kevin Bacon?
To Kevin Bacon. Let's see. Bridget Fonda. The only thing I think of her is like in any of the Tarantino movies. She's in Jackie Brown, I think, right?
Yeah.
Oh, then you
point
can,
of no return.
Then I go Jackie Brown to Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro is in Sleepers with Kevin Bacon.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, as soon as you said Jackie Brown, I remembered.
Yeah,
I was like,
Tarantino.
My go-to is always Sleepers. So if I could get Robert De Niro or Brad Pitt in there, I usually make my
There
way.
are so many. You could also do Bridget Fonda was also in a movie called Balto with Kevin Bacon. A classic that you will probably do it one day.
Is that an animated movie?
Yeah, it's animated.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't count it. They probably never met. Yeah.
You know what's funny? We did one animated movie, Sausage Party, and it is wildly by far the most popular one we've ever done. I don't know.
Really?
I don't know. Like, it is literally getting like 1,000 times the amount of views that to all of our other shows. I don't know why. I don't know.
I'll have to tell my 5-year-old she loves that movie. I've never seen it. She's like, Dad, I keep watching the Sausage Party. It's hilarious. I'm all right. It's animated.
Well, give it a watch sometime. No, but I don't know why. Like, it's for some reason. Like,
can your kids watch Army of Darkness?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, my son could handle Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
I think he'd find it funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so silly. I mean, it's got a few swears in it, you know, and I think that's why it divides Evil Dead fans is that it's so silly and the gore isn't that extreme. And they're like, oh, this is just dumb. And I was like, you can have both. You got your Evil Deads. You can enjoy this as well.
Yeah. Plus, I think you gotta lighten it up. Like, because after Evil Dead 2, you'd kind of done that style twice. So now you gotta do something different. You gotta mix it up.
You get desensitized to gore too. Even if it's funny. Like watching like the Evil Dead show is great. I love it, but there's so much gore in it, impractical gore. It's awesome, but like it's great. Like it's half an hour because like I don't know if I could take an hour of this, you know, because it's like you get desensitized. It doesn't have the effect it does, you know, if you have so much of it.
Yeah.
Well, that does it for us. So that was 1992's Army of Darkness. Now we're going to continue this on to next year's show or next week's show, depending on how you look at things. But the next movie we're going to review is 1993's Jurassic Park with Danielle Delaco. Then we go to 1994's Dumb and Dumber with Corey Baker. And then we go to 1995 to chat all about Clueless with Ellie Smokler.
There we go.
So why did you guys decide to do not Last Action Hero for 93 and you did Jurassic Park instead?
That's true.
We are on a quite a bad action movie like run. And so now we're recording out of order, or not out of order, but we record pretty far in advance. So we go on a trail of Bloodsport, Roadhouse, Terminator, Army of Darkness. We need to break it up with something.
But we had Pretty Woman before all that.
Pretty Woman is in the middle.
That's perfect. Yeah. Throw Steel Magnolias in there somewhere. Yeah. On Golden Pond.
Yeah.
And then throw in Caligula. It's a perfect mix.
Perfect mix.
You get it.
Yeah. So that does it for the show. I'm Jack. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. John, thank you so much for being on. We're going to let you plug your stuff at the very end here. But Andy, where can the world find you online?
You can find me at Just Andy Rossi or my film at Dead Body Movie.
Speaking of Army of Darkness, Dead Body. Not the same thing at all, but Dead Body feels like it is a segue. I don't know. But John, thanks again for being on. Where can the world find you online, and what are some things you want to plug or work on or anything like that? I'm on Instagram at Condrovel. I switched the J and the K. Sounds clever, but I realized it wasn't. And then Twitter, John J Kovel. And then just working on a feature, and that's about it. Just living the dream. Very cool. So we'll stay tuned for that. Let us know when that's ready. We want to review it once it's done. That does it for us here at the Evolution of Movies. Thank you for watching, and until next year, we'll see ya. I don't know.